Hi, my name is Jeremy, and today I'll be showing you how to set up an MCP server with NoPorts. Let me first explain why you might want to use NoPorts to secure your MCP server. Your setup may look like this, where you have an LLM client making HTTP requests to your remote server. And this remote MCP server may have access to some critical and sensitive things like your banking details and personal data. This is bad because this MCP server has to have an open port to the internet, exposing your attack surface. But with NoPorts, you can close this port entirely from the internet while maintaining the original functionality of your MCP server. First, you're going to head over to NoPorts.com and get your 2 free atsigns. Once you get your 2 free atsigns, you'll get an email similar to this. For this tutorial, I'll be using 2 atsigns, MCP Demo 1 NP and MCP Demo 2 NP. Once you have your atsigns, you need to activate your keys. You can do this by downloading NoPorts Desktop and logging in with each atsign and signing out. Once you open NoPorts Desktop, type in your atsign, and then you will get an OTP code from your email. Just enter that code, and then it'll activate your atsign and prompt you to save your key file. Here I just save it on my desktop. Once you log in, just go to the settings and then sign out, and then log back in, but with your second atsign this time. Once you're done activating both atsigns, you should have 2 key files similar to this. It is very important that you back these keys up because once you lose them, they're gone forever.
Now it's time to set up an MCP server on our device. All we're going to do here is set up a basic MCP server. And to do that, I'm going to be writing an MCP server in Python using the FastMCP library. What's important to note is that this MCP server will be running on localhost port 3000. What's important to note is that your MCP server should be delivered over HTTP. If it's not HTTP, then it won't work with NoPorts. Now that we got an MCP server running on our container, the next step is to install the NoPorts daemon so that we can actually connect to the MCP server. To do this, head over to docs.noports.com and follow the instructions on how to set up a NoPorts daemon. So what I'm doing here is running the curl command that will install the universal.sh script. Then I'm going to execute it using chmod and sudo/universal.sh. Then the script is going to ask me some questions like the install type, and since we're installing the device, we're going to type in device. Then it'll ask me for a client @sign, so here I'll type @mcp demo _01_np, and this is where you're going to put your specific @signs. Then you're going to enter your device @sign, and then you're going to enter a device name, and this device name can be whatever you want. In my case, I'll just call it MCP_demo, but remember this device name because you're going to need it later on. In the next step, you're going to open your client NoPorts desktop app, and you're going to make sure that you're signed in as the device @sign. So in this case, I'm just going to sign out and sign back in to make sure that I'm the device @sign because we're going to generate an OTP over here in the authorization screen. And once you get that OTP, we're going to copy and paste it into this long command here. So in this command, we have to change a couple of things. The first thing we have to change is the @sign that we're using. So we'll be replacing the @sign that we got from noports.com. And then we'll also have to replace the passcode, which you saw me do just a second ago. And then we're going to have to enter the device name that we entered earlier. In my case, it was MCP_demo. This is what a fully constructed command looks like. Yours is not going to look exactly like this because you're going to have different @signs, a different OTP, as well as a different device name, but this is what mine looks like. After pressing enter and executing that command, head over back to NoPorts desktop and approve the request. After approving the request, you should see your keys have been generated at a specified file path. Here in the terminal, it says your atKeys file has been generated at this path. So that means we're good to go to the next step. If you want to see your NoPorts daemon logs, you can run this journalctl command, and you should see this monitor started line. That means the NoPorts daemon is working. There's one last thing. Now that our daemon is running, we need to permit open on localhost 3000, which is where our MCP server is running. Then you need to run systemctl daemon reload and restart sshNPD as well. So let's just do a recap of what just happened. So in the first part, we set up an HTTP MCP server on localhost 3000. Then we set up our NoPorts daemon atsign on our device so that we have a set of keys at home directory.atsign/keys. And then lastly, we set up a NoPorts daemon called sshNPD. And then we also edited the override.conf file to permit open on localhost 3000, which will ultimately give our first atsign the ability to establish a TCP connection on the remote machine on localhost 3000, which is where our MCP server is running. Alright, so the device is completely set up, so let's head back over to our client and sign in as our client atsign. Once signed in, just hit that add new button, and we're going to create a profile so that we can establish NoPorts connections to this device by a click of a button. So give the profile a name, then enter your device atsign, then enter your device name, and this has to be the same device name you entered earlier. Select a relay closest to your location, then set a local port, which is the port that NoPorts Desktop will be binding to. Set the remote host and remote port to localhost 3000. Then hit submit, and this will create our profile. File is created, just hit that play button, and it'll establish a connection to the NoPorts daemon that is running in our container. You can see here we got connected, and that means we can start interacting with our MCP server. So there are many ways to interact with an MCP server, but for my case, I'll be using Witsy, which is an open source LLM client that lets you use any LLM and also connect with different types of MCP servers. So what I'm doing here is heading over to the MCP servers section, and I'll be adding a streamable HTTP MCP server. And all that's left is to fill out the details. So since we've binded our local port to 3000 on NoPorts Desktop, we can connect to http://127.0.0.1 on port 3000/MCP, and that's where our MCP server is running locally. And you should get this green check mark to show that you've connected. Then we can head over to an LLM and manually select that tool. So there's this one tool on my MCP server called process_data. So I will select that tool and enable it. Then I can start asking the LLM questions and even ask it to process data, which will use that MCP tool that we've set up on our MCP server. As you can see here, my LLM model has access to the process_data tool, which is a tool that exists on our MCP server that we are accessing without having any open ports on the internet.